Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is a very demanding game, so I thought why not go ahead and see if it's playable on the ROG Ally Extreme Z1. Before I get into it, I just want to go ahead and thank Bethesda for giving me the code for the game so I could go ahead and check it out and play it for myself. Bethesda's minimum specs for this game is a 2060, so I wanted to know how well this would actually work on a handheld device like the ROG Ally. So going into the video settings, this is what I'm actually using. I have it set to 720. You're not going to get 1080p and actually playable. Don't even try it. 720p is where you're going to sit. Field of view, I had it set to 80. It defaults at 90. You could go ahead and play with that. Just know that the higher the field of view, the more it has to render, you lower your FPS. Everything else is pretty much the same except for motion blur. I turned off. Always turn off motion blur. Does not need to be on. And then the next thing I turned off was reflections quality. Everything else is set to low. I tried medium. Not going to happen. It stutters way too much. Now, as for the audio settings, I recommend doing this. Voice volume, set it to 100. It was at 80. And then overall music volume, set it to 80. It was at 100. It's way too loud. You couldn't hear any speaking. So that's for the in-game settings. Now for the ROG settings. This is where it does take a little bit of tinkering. As you see here, my GPU is pinged at almost 100%, sitting at 97, 98% usage. My CPU at 22%. Currently about 24 FPS when I'm at the 15 watt performance, but that is going to change. Now I do set it here to 30 watt turbo because I'm plugged in, and it is going to jump up, but then it's going to come back down to about 31, 30 FPS. So there's not much of a difference. Then I'm going to set it back to the 15 watt performance mode, and you're going to notice that the FPS stays at around 27, 28 FPS. So there's not really much of a delta between the 15 watt performance mode and the 30 watt turbo mode. If you're not plugged in, you're going to obviously have that 25 watt mode, but there's really not too much difference. So here you are bottlenecked with the GPU, so just bumping up the CPU really isn't going to do too much of a difference. Now, of course, anything lower than the 15 watt is just terrible. It's not going to play. It stutters way too much. I do not recommend it. So you can't really run it on a 10 watt. 15 watt is the minimum that I do recommend you actually play this on with the ROG. Now, depending on the location you are with the map, obviously when you are around people and you're fighting, the frame rate does dip down to about 25, 27 FPS. And then as you're climbing and things like that, it does go back up to 30. Now, I recommend hitting that 30 watt turbo if you can, if you're plugged in. Obviously, if you have the power going to the ROG Ally, use it. But if you don't, hitting that 15 watt is perfectly fine. As you see here, I'm still on 15 watt performance mode, and I'm getting around 31 FPS. It does dip down, so I said like before, like 24 FPS, but it really doesn't stutter when it hits that low. If you check this game out for yourself, let me know what settings you're using as well as what FPS you get in the comment section down below. Make sure to also go ahead, subscribe, like the video if you can, please, helps me out a lot. Follow all my socials, everything linked in the description. So now there was one time when I noticed the ROG Ally did chug just a little bit. So I'm currently on the 25 watt TDP, so I'm off the charger on the battery, and this is the max that the ROG Ally will go at. So as you see here, 32, 33 FPS. I am in close quarters, so obviously less to render. FPS is going to go up. As I move out into a more open area, it is going to go down, but I did notice one situation where the FPS did tank a bit. So as you see here, fighting a single enemy, 27, 26 FPS, but once more people start getting into it and more enemies start to appear on the screen is when the FPS does start to tank a little bit. So it goes down to about 22 FPS. It doesn't go any lower than that. That's pretty much the only situation where I noticed that. As you see here, it isn't as choppy as you would think it is. Obviously, when you're playing and you're averaging around 28 to 32 FPS, 22 is not going to feel as horrible as if you were playing at a 60 FPS on average. So the game is still playable. It's just, it does go down when you actually get into a bit of a mix. I'm currently enjoying this game, and it's playable enough on the ROG Ally. If you happen to have any questions, let me know in the comment section down below. Once again, thanks to Bethesda for allowing me to play this game early and sending the code out for me so I could try this out on the handheld and play it for myself. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, and I'll see you on the next one.
The serpent